Hi, Leah with my sewing room here. We're going to talk about triple straight stitching and using that particular stitch as a strength feature when you're sewing something that needs a little more sturdiness, something like your jeans. And we're also going to talk about one of my favorite accessory feet that you might want to add to your arsenal of tools. So I'm setting up to do a straight seam using a triple straight stitch. The default stitch on your machine is the number 1, and it's just a regular stitch. The triple stitch is going to go over each part of the stitch with 3 threads, top and bottom. So when you're setting up to sew something and you need a specific seam allowance, you can use the guidelines on your stitch plate. The 5/8 seam line is this one right here, and that's measured from your center needle position on your machine. When you're getting ready to sew, and to try and keep things straight, I would recommend watching where the fabric is, not where the needle is. You'll have a much easier time keeping things going straight. Watching the seam guide and the edge of the fabric instead of the needle. So now we've got a nice sturdy triple stitch on our seam line for these jeans. I don't have an iron with me today, so I'm just going to finger press this flat and open. And then I would like a beautiful top stitch to finish this seam off on the outside. My favorite foot to top stitch with is the number 10 or the 10C or D. I'll be using the 10D because this machine has dual feet. I'm going to change out the presser foot. And your 10D foot, the magic of this foot is in the spring-loaded guide that sits up at the front. So that spring guide is going to sit in our seam line, and then we can line our needle up directly behind it for something like a stitch in the ditch. Or it's got a big wide 9mm opening, so we can top stitch using the seam guide running down the seam and have the needle offset to the left or the right, whichever way is going to be easier for what we're doing. So my personal preference is to move my needle to the far left on this one using the button below your stitch length knob. I'm going to move this all the way over to the -5 position, which is all the way to the left. And then the spring-loaded guide in this foot is going to sit comfortably in that seam line and help you go nice and straight. And when you're ready to come do the second side of top stitching on the other side of the seam, I'm going to move the needle all the way over to the right and sew the same direction. The number 10, 10C, and 10D is great for top stitching and detail work when you need to be very consistent at the edge of something. Hence why it's called an edge stitch foot. Nice and even either side. Very professional look for your sewing. Nice and professional inside too.